Good evening and welcome to the Lads It's Tottenham podcast. I'm the caller joining you from the study this evening, not the man cave. And I'm joined as ever by the Grumpy Gibbo. How are you, Grumpy Gibbo, today?
I'm not as grumpy today. Owen, I'm quite happy. I mean, if I really wanted to go into it, mate, I think it's one of the worst football matches I've ever watched in my life. But I'm glad, I'm happy we won. We were desperate for a win in the league. I was desperate for us to get a win in the league because I keep losing. But yeah, not as grumpy today.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's as grumpy after a victory. And it was great to see a clean sheet finally, wasn't it? I mean, that don't happen very often. We should probably celebrate that. Let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Do leave us some comments as we go through the show because there's two of us you will notice tonight. There should be a third, but apparently he's got another gig, so he's going to be slightly later than us to the party. But I'm sure he'll bring his views on what's going wrong at Spurs when he does arrive. But a clean sheet, Gibbo, and Kingsley with not that much to do, to be fair. There's one palmed out shot, wasn't there? There's a couple of chances that narrowly missed, but he was fairly quiet, wasn't
he? Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you. It was very strange, mate, watching that because I thought we defended really well. I thought like Davis and the young lad, I've forgotten his name. Archie Gray. Defended the box brilliantly. I thought Spence had a fantastic game. Obviously, he got man of the match. But it's weird because I was watching it and all they seemed to be doing was making angles for crosses and putting the ball in. And I was never really worried. You know, usually when you're watching Spurs and people are loading the box against you, sort of thinking it's going to come. But I didn't feel that today. I thought Brentford were really poor. If you didn't look at the league table, you didn't know, you'd have thought we'd have been the mid-table team and they'd have been the lower bottom half of the league table.
There's not many points between any of that middle pack, is there, to be honest?
No, but I thought they were going to be a lot better. I mean, Visser and Mbuemo weren't very good. But I thought, we did defend. We defended resolutely, didn't we? And I think we were good value in the end, really.
Yeah, there was that one chance, wasn't there, that Visser missed when he blazed over from close range, where he really should have scored a tap in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's moved us up to the giddy heights of 14th, within 2 points of Manchester United and an extra point behind Palace. So it's not. I think we're safe from relegation with that victory, Matt. That's what I would say.
Yeah, and ultimately, mate, we had to win a league game, didn't we? I know we're in cup semi-finals and we've got the FA Cup and win the Europa League, but the league's your bread and butter, isn't it? You can't just pie off them games. We were due a win. It was a good victory, and not like I said, the game was poor, but it was quite good to see us play out that type of victory, wasn't it?
Well, I think a 2-0 is the happiest scoreline in football, isn't it? Clean sheet, 2 goals scored. Diver in the corporate hospitality was happy. He was well fed with a bit of turkey dinner and polite applause and what more? It's a jolly day out, isn't it? The sun was shining, beautiful. Jed Spence, I want to come back to him. How good is that lad? And how was he overlooked for so long?
Well, I think he's really good, mate. And when we signed him, I'd watched him play for Forest in the Championship, and I thought he should have started then. And I think we used to have debates in our chat about, he's never going to start over Emerson. Emerson's the right back. Spence hasn't played at that level. But I always thought he had something about him. And then, obviously, you think there's got to be something wrong there because no other manager picks him. But I thought he was fantastic today, and I think he's been fantastic every sort of game he's played for us this season. Yeah. It's very straight. I mean, you'd like to think, wouldn't you, that when everybody's fit, Porro's not going to be the first choice right back. I think Spence is going to have something to say about that.
Well, you'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, Porro's defensively very suspect, and I think Spence offers you much more cover. And if you're playing a high line like we do, You need the pace in recovery, and Porro's not slow, but Spence is rapid, isn't he? He just eats up the ground in front of him. Yeah. So I think there's a lot to be said for keeping him in here. Put my teeth in, keeping him in there.
Yeah, and he's got that pace, that recovery pace. Also, I thought he looks like he can defend as well. I mean, he was up against Mbuemo today, and I don't think he was great, but he did a really good job on him, Spence. And also
playing out of position as well, Gibbo.
Yeah, playing out of position. And when he goes forward with the ball with some real purpose, doesn't he? So there is a real shout for, say, when Udogie is fit. Like, if you've got him on one side and Spence on the other, they can get up, and those two can both get up and down, can't they?
Well, it's true, but I just want to draw your attention to Postecoglou's post-match comments, where on Jed Spence he said he's been fantastic. He'll be important for us until Destiny comes back.
Yeah, well, I can quite believe that, mate. I'm not Ange's biggest fan, but I think it's. I'm trying to think of the right word without using really bad language. It's not a good look for Postecoglou that he never used Spence earlier in the season, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just to sort of pie him off when Udogie is back, I think would be ridiculous.
Well, in my opinion, he certainly shouldn't be. It'd be interesting to know what you think in the comments. Would you pick Spence ahead of Porro? The goals today, bit of a lucky one, wasn't it? From the corner from Son. They just you'd be fuming if we conceded that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, the keeper had a stinker, didn't he? And the other bloke turned his back on it, and obviously it went straight in. But we'll take them however they come, won't we, Caller, today?
I think when you're on the losing run that we're on, I think when you get an own goal like that, you've got to capitalise. And to be fair, there was a few wobbly moments, but today the game was fairly under control, I thought, and ultimately, resulted in a nice 3 points away. It's not very often we get to say that, but yeah. And then the second was just nice play, wasn't it? A beautiful finish from Sarr.
Yeah, I mean, they were pushing a bit, weren't they? But Archie Gray at the back, some nice passing. There's a lot of space in midfield. Spence made a run out wide, didn't he? Which sort of obviously someone had to track. And then, to be fair, some lovely weighted ball. And Sarr's just continued his run, toe poked it through the keeper's legs. But it's ironic, isn't it? Because Stone was pretty anonymous today, yet he put in the corner, which they made a right hash of, and then in the dying minutes, he lays that ball on for Sarr.
Well, that's the thing. We were talking pre-show, and you were saying, "Well, the attack looked terrible." I agree, and Son is one of the problems because he slows play down, and he's not the Son of old. But you've kind of just contradicted yourself completely there, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I've contradicted myself, but in that type of way. But you've got to look at it, mate. In going longer term, if we want to be where we want to be, which is challenging to play in the top European competitions, can we just rely on a couple of moments? I know you can, like you did today, but longer term and week upon week, can you rely on that, or are we going to start needing more? Are we going to start, because like I say more, but like Mikey Moore played the first half, but he's not quite there yet, is he?
No.
I think he's a young lad, looks really good, but yeah, he sort of. I think you've got to use him as in when you can. And Richarlison, mate, works hard, but not a lot there, is there? I mean, you'll probably disagree, but
well, I think with Richarlison, I think you've got to bear in mind he's still coming back from injury, a long-term injury, so he's probably not playing at 100%. Obviously, there was that chance where he didn't quite get his toe on it early doors in the first half. His all-round play is always hard-working, isn't it? But you've got to give him balls on his head for me, because that's where he's strong. And we just don't do enough of that. Whoever's in the attack, we just don't do enough of that, because we have generally our wingers, if you like, they cut in. They don't go down the byline and cross the ball. They cut in and take a shot. Nine times out of 10. Well, that's certainly Sonny's modus operandi. If you look on the other side at Brennan Johnson when he's fit, he sort of arrives. He's one thing. He's one redeeming feature. He's quite good at arriving late and banging in a goal, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's not a player who beats a man, gets down the wing, sticks it on someone's nut in the box. And I think that's the service that Richarlison looks for, and to a degree, Solanke as well.
Yeah, well, obviously, Richarlison's goal against Everton was a ball towards the back stick, wasn't he, which he got on. Mm. So, yeah, I definitely think that, and I do think that's his game. So I don't think he's great at bringing players into play. The front line, just obviously, with Son, as you said, he hasn't got the pace to do the things he needs anymore. The front line doesn't look as dynamic as it used to. And I thought today, if you'd have had a front three where the wingers were really at it and really stretched their defence, the way they were playing, we could have probably been more convincing. But, hopefully we're looking at it. We've got a day left in the transfer window to get another forward in. Who we'll get, I have no clue. But ultimately, today was about 3 points and we got them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And look, cheer up. I'm happy. This is a happy face.
Yeah, I'm happy, mate. I'm happy, but I shouldn't say, but I'm happy we've got 3 points, but we've got to build from it. It's no good just beating Brentford away and then not winning for another 5 or 6 games, is it? And you know what? That's how it's been lately. So the more the run of winning continues, the happier I will be.
Well, I mean, when you say about replacing Son, what does that look like for you?
Well, so I've said this before on here, mate. Like, we've got Mikey Moore now, young lad, and we've got Odebear. We've got Son right at the other end of the scale.
We haven't had Odebear all season, but
you know what I mean. I'm talking about what we've got in our ranks. Now, I'd be looking, and I doubt we'll do this, but I think we should be going out and looking for a player who plays in that position, who is in his prime. And then I'd be using Son, that they can sort of share minutes. If you're going to start Son to rest the other guy and then bring him on after 60, or now and then if you've got this like guy in his prime, he's sort of playing 60, 70 minutes, he comes on. But it's just taking minutes off Son and trying to get him as fresh as possible and getting the best out of him. Because he has been great for us, but it's obvious to see, isn't it, that he is not the player. He doesn't have as much involvement. He gets knocked off the ball easily. There's a few times today where you think he's away here, but he sort of stops and then just passes it back, doesn't he? Sort of stifles the attack. But
he's always done that to a degree because he's at his best when he's always playing a ball over the top and he's running onto it like Kane used to in the service to do that. But no one really does that in this structure.
No, we just need to be getting the best out of him. That's what we need for whatever time we've got left of him. We need to be getting the best out of him. And I've seen this, but Augsburg were fucking awful, weren't they? I mean, let's be honest. That was great watching those young kids score. They could have played all night, Augsburg, and they wouldn't have scored. They were awful. But it was a great win. But I just think, mate, it's committed. And it sounds like I've got an agenda against Son, but I just think we have to be looking for the next thing now, and I think that's quite pressing.
Well, talking of agendas, he's grown a beard. What's going on there, Dave? Is this the sort of new look you're going for?
So I'd like to first of all apologise for being late. I was just doing something else, and I'm going back to work. I think on February the 10th. So I've got my beard. I've got really bad hair this morning, so I've got a cap on. So this is my third midlife crisis. How are you all? You good? It seems like I've joined at the right time. I've heard you talking about our club captain, Gibbo.
Yeah, we were just talking, and it feels like we're talking about it all the time. But I haven't got a problem with Son. You know that. I just don't. He's not the player he was, and we need that attack to get revamped. I think
it's our attack. Hang on a second. Someone's just said that.
It's Mike Gattin.
Wow, I'm a David Gower person. Thank you very much. I think if we get into it right, I've just quit. So you were talking about Sonny. So Sonny and Richie in an away game like that last night or this morning. I'm always smiling, Kerry. And an away game like yesterday or this morning, whenever it was, right? you need a striker up top who can keep the ball and keep possession. And Richarlison and Sonny are not those players. Yeah. And so I just think that if you had Solanke, and if you had or someone else who can keep the ball up top, now there's a reference from the 80s. If a striker who keeps the ball up top, then that was good. I thought with Mikey Moore was only one of the three up top in the first half, is someone who can actually keep the possession of the ball, etc., etc. And when he went off at half time, and although I thought Bovan was excellent in the second half, I thought we lost that a little bit. So I think Sonny, he's been a legend. He's been with us for 10 years. He scored a huge amount of goals. I just think if we were a club that properly managed these things like Liverpool have done with Salah, Firmino and Mane, and worked on decent succession planning, and they got some money from Mane, if we were like that, we should have got...
Less of that talk.
About what?
Succession planning.
Why?
Come on, taking the mick.
I'm not taking the mick.
We don't do that, you know.
Well, no, I think what you're overlooking is the talent that we've got on loan, Brian Hill, because he was clearly born. he was born to be Son's replacement, but unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out.
Now, Brian Hill, the best thing that Brian Hill ever did for us was facilitate the exit of Coco Lamela. So for that alone, well done.
I liked Lamela though. He's good. He was a proper player.
Any player, mate, any player where people big up their shithousery tells you that they are shit.
Correct.
That's basically what that is saying.
Correct. He scored two Rabonas. I don't need to say anymore, you know.
He got injured in 3 warm-ups before the start of the game? Need I say any more?
Oh, they're all coming out now. How's that?
Yeah. I'm getting ready for the Ashes next year.
Yeah, I think Daniel's got it nailed. Not a shit cricket team at the moment. So where have you been, Dave? Tell us where have you been? What's more important than Atlantis Tottenham?
Nothing is more important than you to find people. Okay, you are all. Everyone is as important to me as each other, except my children, and because they're more important. So I've just been on the Change for Tottenham Spaces. So we did talk about Change for Tottenham about a year and a half ago, when I had courage of the run sheet. So Change for Tottenham are a group who they were behind the guys who brought the banner into the stadium at the Leicester game. They are, to me, represent the middle ground of Tottenham supporters who are having respectful and meaningful conversation and asking questions about ownership in terms of what they do. And at the end of the day, the history of the club is that in the 80s, we had the fanzine movement, the great Spur fanzine, Stuart Mutler, great read. We had Left on the Shelf campaigning against Scholar wanting to get rid of the shelf. In the 90s, we had Tag, Mark Jacob, which you can read all about in this book on the 90s, is Gazza Gonna Have a Crack, who campaigned against Alan Sugar. And you've got these guys. There's been groups and things like that who have been protesting against ENIC for a long while opposite the shop, who put in a lot of their own time to do so, and these guys have been around for about a year. If anyone, there's Change for Tottenham Twitter, they're on TikTok, Instagram, things like that. It is all about a respectful discussion and questions of the ownership, and I think there'll be a rally before the Man United game.
A rally, like Sir Walter, yeah,
or what do you call it then? A demo?
A protest, I think. Yeah, I think there's a plan. There's a planned protest. Let's hope they get more than 20 this time. That would be good.
Well, see, that's an interesting point you made, because I sense a slight amount of skepticism from you, and I'm genuinely, because this is a chat between all of us. Yeah. Talk me through your skepticism, my friend.
I don't see that they come across particularly well. I don't see that they're going to have an effective movement to remove ENIC from the club. That would be my particular view, Dave. I don't know what Gibbo thinks, but let them crack on. That's up to them.
Well, I think my view of it is, Dave, we are hoping on one of our midweek shows to get them on, aren't we? So
we are.
I think I don't really read up on a lot of stuff or listen to a lot of stuff other than football pitch stuff. So I'm quite looking forward to hearing what they've got to say, and I can respectfully ask questions, and I'll make a decision on what I think about it then. I don't go to a lot of, I very rarely go to games anymore just due to stuff with my family. So I haven't been going regular for a few years. I'll get back to that. So I sort of do look at it and go, what can I do really from my armchair? So, but I will be interested to.
Same question Dave asks himself every morning when he gets up. What can he do? Ask not what you can do for Tottenham.
Well, I think to that, your comments are all lovely and you're entitled to your opinion. I think to just to come back in a second, that they don't come across too well. I think you might be mentioning, look, these guys are volunteers, right? They're not politicians. They're not anything like that. So, they're doing. I always see in life you got three choices of things. And for this example, if you could be Enoch in and support what they're doing, and that you're perfectly entitled to your opinion on that. You could be Enoch out and you don't want to do anything about it, or you could be Enoch out and you want to do something about it. Now, no one is ever saying that amongst any of the people involved or anything like that.
Very importantly, Dave,
what?
You might just not want to get involved with all of that stuff, which is
but that's the thing.
Which is where I think the majority of the fan base are.
Absolutely, but I think it's where the only time that there's been conversations about Levy and Enoch, there's been certain times, and then I think when we had the Super League, it was the first time that genuinely people said to me, "Oh, well, I don't like Levy or anything like that," and I've been going on about it for years, which is my opinion. And then obviously what we've got, then you had the whole Nuno thing, and the crowd are turning. He sacks Nuno and gets Conte in desperation. And then you also have, but what you have now, I personally think for the first time, the crowd are not all Ange and booing Ange and things like that. And God knows his record's been worse than a lot of other managers who've been sacked before, right? But for the first time, the crowd are not automatically scapegoating the manager. They're looking at the ownership. And I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, but I'll disagree with you on that, because I don't think it is the first time, because I think if you cast your mind back to when Nuno was appointed and very unfairly treated, to be honest, by the fan base and ultimately by the board.
And people on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I always bang the drum for him because my dad said he was a good manager at Wolves, but that's another story. We don't talk about Nuno. But I think the truth is, and this is where I stand, that Enoch. So I don't like Enoch, right? But I'm resigned to the acceptance of they'll go when they want to go, and it doesn't really matter how many protests or banners you unfurl. It's not going to change anything. They've got elephant skin. So I think you just have to suck it up and accept that's probably where we're at right now. But I think they're on the way out anyway, which may or may not be a good thing. Sometimes you do have to be careful what you wish for, David. And we'll come on to that in a minute. Sugar, Enoch,
yeah, fine.
And I think the fan base is generally, no one particularly likes Enoch. So I think this notion of these people who back Levy is a load of nonsense. I just think there's a load of people who don't want to get involved in all that stuff. They get tarred with that brush. The truth is, when the side does crap, Levy, the owners, Enoch, Lewis, although he gets a free ride for some reason, I don't know why, carry the can. When everything's going well, there's no noise at all. So the truth of the matter is, what happens is Levy comes in, sacks someone, and all of a sudden it all goes away. Because apart from throwing a few balloons on the pitch or having a banner, there's really no noise around it.
The one thing I will
say, it goes away. The second he sacks someone, brings someone in. Now, the fan base is more united now than ever. Blah, 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 blah. Agree with that. That's only because he hasn't pulled the trigger.
The one thing I will say is that over the last couple of weeks, I've probably noticed that the media have picked up on it more than they ever have.
Yeah, but that's the reason for that is because he's left Ange in role longer.
Yeah,
than he
but
has any
obviously,
victims,
But he and our league position is so shit. So we are a talking point, aren't we?
Yes.
But it has picked up. It has gained a little bit of more traction in the media, which is obviously
media talking about it more for precisely that reason. We're low down the league, and there's got to be a scapegoat, hasn't there?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And the scapegoat is either the manager or the owners, depending on your view, or a mixture of both, if you're me.
But I think the one good thing, like Davo did mention there, is to have respectful conversation over it. Whereas I think
that is important.
That's important.
I totally agree. Yeah,
because there was a period, wasn't it, where I'm Levy out, and you're like, well, I'm not sure. Well, you're this and you're that, and you're part of the problem, and this, and you're like, well, hang on, let's have a conversation about it, and then maybe I'll change an opinion or whatever. And I think it does need that respectful conversation to be had. And you may sway people's thinking a little bit then, or you may be.
Yeah, but I suppose this is true. But like I've already said, I think most people are pretty much where I'm at. There's not that many people ranting and raving and going, I want Levy to die and all that sort of horrible stuff. That's like the extreme end of the spectrum.
Yeah, no one wants that.
But unfortunately, that's what the ENIC out movement has been tarred with. So respect change for Tottenham for trying to change that perception, which I think is admirable. I suppose my skepticism and belief is there's two things. The one, we do a little bit better and this all goes away. So it's just a little bit like children throwing their toys out the pram when they can't get what they want. The second thing is, I don't think it'll make any difference anyway. But I'm willing to be open-minded enough to have my my mind turned on it.
I'm happy to listen. I definitely want to listen to the conversation, see what they've got to say, and if I'm on board with it, if I think that's right, and I'll get on board with it, I'll get on board with it. But even if I were to get on board with it, I am in that place with Caller where I don't think it matters. They will go when they want to go. And
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's not going to make some bloke with a beard and an England cricket cap on his head is going to make Daniel Levy sell up tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
I totally get that. But even the title of this show today, what the F is going on at Spurs, right?
So I didn't write that book.
Well, who did?
Me.
Okay, so
because we had before when I named it, mate, we hadn't won, and it was all a little bit. We were going in for players and So it was just, and then I couldn't be bothered to change it.
So now that we've won, are we now saying there is no longer what the F is going on at Spurs?
No problem. No problem. We're good.
No problem at all. We're top of the world. We don't need to change anything now. No, I think the whole thing was about when we discussed putting this show together for Sunday. I think we'd been turned down by, or was it Saturday morning where we decided we've been turned down by 2 players, and you're just thinking, "Wow, we're desperate for players." But so it was just a flippant title, mate. But what the F is going on at Spurs anyway?
Do you want me to answer that?
Go for it.
I think we're paying the price for a series of poor recruitment decisions. That's ultimately, we were talking about this before. Spurs would be doing a lot better, probably be a lot higher up in the league if we hadn't had the injuries. But we've appointed someone who's got a proven track record. He's world class at getting players injured. You can see that in himself, his previous club. So surprise, we've got a lot of injuries, and I haven't invested, deeply enough in the squad to cover it, and that's the reality. Otherwise, we probably would be a lot higher up the league because we've been absolutely threadbare. The players are knackered, and and that is the fault of the recruitment team, the manager, ultimately the chairman, isn't it? That's the problem. I think I do see things like this, promised investment in the squad after we build. There has been more investment. We've broken our transfer record continuously since we've been in the new stadium. So it's not fees, it's wages, isn't it?
It's wages. Really? We spoke about this, didn't we, Caller, before?
I mean, I've been banging this drum for about 10 years. We consistently pay below what other clubs that have got delusions of grandeur pay. Villa pay more. I'm not sure.
Villa are paying at the minute, mate. I've just had John's put a message on our group, apparently for this Rashford deal, Villa will be covering 75% of Rashford's Man United salary.
I mean, more for them, to be honest.
They're more for them, but if it comes off, mate, they are paying him 262k a week.
If what comes off.
So Villa are paying 262 and United are paying the rest, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and so we're covering 100% of Werner, which is 165 grand a week, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the reason why we are here where we are now, and I agree, one is everyone knew we're going to play more games this season, and we've got a worse squad than last season. Okay? That's the
squad.
We've got a worse squad. On paper, the first team would have been improved with Solanke coming in, and I think Solanke's been great. But God, I wish people would put a decent cross on his head other than Porro. Right? So we're playing more games, and we got a weaker squad. Okay? And I think that is on the ownership, the recruitment, whatever. Right? I love Bergvall and Gray this season. I think they've been great. I'm worried that we're going to absolutely demolish them. But there's no way they should have played as many games as they had so far, and all that kind of stuff, right? So what we should have done is brought in 2 more experienced players and pay them a decent salary into this team. I think we were crying out for that, and that's not happened. I also think Ange is culpable as well. Now, the 10 players out have not all torn their hamstrings in training or on the pitch, right? So let's get rid of that one for a start. But I think where Ange has been culpable is not playing Spence more often, and should have. I don't know how Porro keeps going. I really don't, right? And I think Porro had a better season last season than this season at right back because he had a bit of competition for his place, and he got rested from time to time. This season, he's played every game. So I blame Ange for the Europa squad selection. Was he should have had Spence in there. He also should have rotated Reggie in as well. Now, I'm not saying Reggie is Paolo Maldini, okay, but he's a perfectly serviceable left back who can play in certain games, right? And he should have done that as well. So there should have been his
favourite phrase. That is perfectly serviceable.
That's what Corley used to say about Doherty when I said he was rubbish. But you are right, Dave, because there's times like say when we're beating West Ham 4-0 or 4-1 up, whatever, with 20 minutes to go. And instead of Udogie banging up and down the wing, then that would have been ideal to sort of just bring him off, put someone like Reguilon on, and just take some minutes off him. And I watched, when the young kids came on in the European game the other night, they did all right. We could have used some of them in other games and brought them on, but we didn't want to use them. They proved that they can actually be of some use, but we've ran people into the ground. All the injuries aren't on Ange, obviously. But every team does get injuries.
Yeah.
And the management of the squad on his part has been poor, in my opinion.
I think watchers of this show, when we summarised the summer transfer window, were what's it all about? Because we've improved the first 11 by 1 player and weakened the reserves ultimately by bringing a load of kids in. Now, that said, I think the kids will be good. I think we've signed good kids. I think they'll be good players long term. But if in the here and now, it's left us very exposed.
And it's like I said, and I don't know, like you and Dave agree on this, but at the time, I'm like, people kept talking about the buzzword was the rebuild. Well, when you have a rebuild, sometimes you'll go backwards. When we were sort of heading towards mid-table at the start of the season, I kept getting told, you've got to expect this for a rebuild. You obviously haven't got the stomach for it. And I'm like, I'm not too sure about this. We're sort of losing games and going back. Because last season, we finished 5th, a couple of points off 4th place. So I look at that and think the rebuild's on the way because we've brought a lot of new players in over the past few years. Most of that team are new players now. So I'm looking at that going 5th, couple of points off 4th. We missed out on Champions League because 5th didn't get it that year. And then I'm thinking, so now we add to the squad, make the first team better, make the squad better, and now maybe we push on for 4th while having these new players and adding a few ones. That's a rebuild, not, oh, no, we're rebuilding it and we're going to go down towards relegation. That's not how it works. That's not how.
No, but that's Ange, isn't it? Ange's words, isn't it? Mainly,
Ange's driving that. Hoodwinked.
that agenda. I think we've been hoodwinked. I think we've summarised it pretty well. Ultimately,
some people have, Paula, because some people were believing that this is what happens when you rebuild. We sort of go backwards. We're going to have this period where we go backwards.
Well, you can go backwards in a few games, but you can't lose 13 before February.
Exactly, mate. It's a load of bullshit.
I'm interested to know, and we won't say who it. I'd love to know who the person has said to you, Gibbo, that you don't have the patience for the rebuild. I think your first season was 91, 92. And here you are now. You don't go. You're still here with us, watching our beloved club.
It was that there were people out there saying that when skeptics, then like myself, and probably who else would I put in that group? Say like me and Leon, in people like us who we've not, and Caller will vouch for me. This isn't like
skeptic.
I've been skeptical of Ange for quite a long time, not just since we've had the injuries, not just jumped on a bandwagon. You get people, and then you hear people say, "Oh, you haven't got the stomach for a rebuild," and all that nonsense. And
I don't even know what that even means.
I've seen umpteen rebuilds. I've watched us win nothing for years and been on. I think I've got the stomach. I've been in this since 1987.
Here's some rebuilds in here.
Yeah.
Well, look, Ange's a poor appointment as a manager, in my opinion.
Ange's what?
Is a poor appointment as a manager, in my opinion.
Why?
Well, he's an idealist, isn't he?
Well, because he's got no clue about balance. That's why. It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing, isn't it? 9 times out of 10, it comes up with nothing.
What was the Brentford game? Hang on a minute. What was the Brentford game? Did we play a high line, inverted fullbacks, and gung ho? I didn't see that. Did you?
No, I don't think we did today. I think in more fairness,
I think the team's knackered. I don't think they can. They can't run up and down anymore, Dave.
What about Liverpool first leg? Was that high line, inverted fullbacks, gung ho?
Different, because as I was there in the stadium, I could tell you we were pressed back awfully, and the fullbacks were inverted high, and there was absolutely shit tons of space every time. How they didn't score is beyond me, because every single time they went forward, they exposed our fullbacks massively.
So this might be sort of...
I know, I was sat there looking at it going, what the hell is he doing?
This sort of might be, go back onto the board, but like, I'm not pining for Pochettino. We never go backwards. But what he did was he made the team better than the sum of their parts. The players he got, he improved them. He coached them up. Jose came in, Conte came in, and Ange, in a different vein to them, they are players, they are managers that have to have players that can do exactly what they want. This is my system. This is how I really want to play, and I don't deviate from that. For me to be successful, this is what I need. Now, I said this a long, long time ago. For Postecoglou, for Ange Ball to work, we are going to need, ideally, the best players in the league and a bigger squad.
Yeah.
Not going to get that at Spurs. So you need somebody to coach that team, and whatever happens with the injuries, or you've got somebody who will do that. And he is not that coach, in my opinion, long term.
Okay, can I just come back on a couple of points that you guys have raised? So first of all, to Caller, in terms of the appointment of Ange at the time, yeah? And, he wasn't the right person, this, that, and the other. I just want to remind you, there was no one else, right? Nagelsmann turned us down. We cocked up Slot, which sounds dodgy, but sorry about it. There was no one else, right? And so, he'd already got Munn in, and who knew Ange or whatever, and we got Ange in because he was one of the last choices, almost like an Australian Nuno, right? And then in terms of kind of patience for the rebuild, the project and things like that, and I know some of those people will say, look what Klopp did and look what Arteta did, right? And you got to be patient, dodgy times and things like that. As I think we said on Grumpy Old Spurs this week, I said, if Klopp had turned round to Daniel Levy and said, I want to sell Coutinho for 110 million and buy Alisson and Van Dijk, do you think Daniel Levy would have agreed to that? No. If Arteta would have turned around to Daniel Levy and said, I want to get rid of Aubameyang, Ozil, all these other high earners, we've got to write them off now. Don't put them out on loans because they're polluting the training ground. I want them gone. Do you think Levy would have done that? No. So that's the difference, is that if you've got a project manager, you need to back the manager at the appropriate time. And last summer was the time of we needed more experienced players to play more games this season on top of your Bergvals and Grays, who Langer, let's not forget, said at the end of the window, those boys are ready, first team ready. Well, Ange didn't agree with that. Yeah, well, Ange didn't agree with that. And let's go back to Valise signing. We signed him. He went out on loan straight away.
Yeah, he was bought for the future, wasn't he?
They're all bought for the future.
Well, yeah. I know, but it's quite natural to send people out on loan. You've just got to make sure you've got quality players in the squad. The reality is we fish from a different pool to Liverpool.
Yeah, you can't. You're right, mate. You can't put us in the same bracket as Liverpool or Arsenal.
I think it's a stupid comparison.
I don't think it's a stupid comparison. Look at some of the signings that Liverpool have made over the years. They're not actually out the ballpark of what we've paid for players, right?
Yeah, but it's different.
They pay the wages, Dave, and
but
that's wages and the name of Liverpool, a club that wins stuff.
Well, yeah,
and players. If you were offered the same money, say Spurs were fifth, say it was last season and we're fifth, we're close to the top four, and you're offered the same money between Liverpool and Spurs, where are you going as a player?
Okay,
you go Liverpool.
All right, let's go back a few years to this. So let's go back a few years, right? The transfer, the summer after we came third in a 2-horse race, right? Liverpool, Klopp had just been in that season, right? They weren't in the Champions League. I think they were in Europa, right? And we were in the Champions League. So Mane and Wijnaldum were up for. Hang on. But Mane and Wijnaldum were up for grabs. Mane even came around the training ground, and we didn't do the money because we didn't want to pay Mane more than Kane, right? So Mane and Wijnaldum went off to Liverpool, and who did we get? Sissoko and Vincent Janssen. Okay, and when we talk about Liverpool, right? They ain't won the Premier League in over 20 odd years, right?
Before Klopp said they won, Dave.
Well, hang on. Before Klopp turned up, I used to call Liverpool the West Indies of the Premier League. Great in the 70s and the 80s, not much cop after that, right? So yeah, they won cups and
the European Cup.
I think they're the most successful British team of all time, aren't they?
No, I know that, but hang on. Klopp winning the Champions League. That's the first cup he won. You know that?
Yeah, but
they won it a couple of years before that.
They won it when they were 3-0 down. So Liverpool fans and the thing around Liverpool and around Arsenal is that their fans, like we're told, we haven't got patience because we're starved of it. We're desperate for it. Liverpool, they might not have won stuff, and even Arsenal, for as long as to go. They probably didn't want to go the lengths of time they had, but they have won stuff in recent history. So and they are a club that were more used to winning than us. So that's why I don't like because the comparison between Tottenham, Liverpool, and Arsenal is chalk and cheese.
Well, it's ridiculous.
No, my comparison is
chalk and cheese.
Hang on a second. My comparison is in the context of backing the project manager.
Yes, yeah.
Liverpool and Arsenal have done that, and we have not thus far, frankly. Okay,
absolutely,
so that's what it is. And when you have and the criticism I've had of Enoch is those opportunities that we've had over the years. Nelson, Zaha, window, Redknapp, right? Poch, da. At those times, that's when you kick on and you get in your two. All the ex-players now, Lloris has said it, Dyer, whatever. If we'd have bought 1 or 2 star players to take that team to the next level, we'd have got there, right? And that's what you have to do.
Strengthen from a position of strength, mate.
Yeah,
that's because
Levy is always reactive and not proactive.
There's no argument about that, though, is there?
No.
No one would disagree with that, and no one would disagree with that. You know, we mess around, don't we? But as I say, we ask. I mean, people won't like this, right? We're not as big as we think we are in terms of a pull to players, and we haven't been for a long time. Bar the Poch era, the last 20 years, 30 years have been steeped in failure, right? So as a player, when you're given the options to go to the really big teams or the teams just below that, you're going to go to the really big teams. What we've got to do is break that cycle somehow by either paying the wages and buying it, like I'm trying to think of a good example. Well, like Chelsea did when Abramovich took over,
and City,
they were nothing, and City, So really, what we're asking for is for us to spend a shit ton of money on wages.
Not necessarily.
And recruit better.
Well, no, I genuinely think that's the only way you break the mold, Dave. If I'm honest, your recruitment needs to be on point, but you're going to have to attract these players. If you're going to break the cycle and actually truly become a big club, not a wannabe big club, which is what I would forever, really, my whole life, 43 years, we have never been a truly, truly big club. We've been the also nearly runs. No one in China knows who Spurs are. They know Man United are, Liverpool, Arsenal, that kind of super club. You've got to spend.
Gibbo wants to say something, and I'll come back on that.
No, I mean, it's like, I look at it now, like obviously a team very close to my heart, people who watch us. You look at Villa now. Now they've got new ownership who are very ambitious. I know you're sighing and Paula, but they are now putting their money where their mouth is.
Well, they're going to run really foul of FFP in a minute, but yeah,
mate, no, they just circumnavigate that. All these teams just circumnavigate it, mate. Chelsea are in it. They don't care. Chelsea don't. They want to win, and then they will deal with it and work their way around it however they can. FFP, PSR, or whatever. Just forget all that nonsense.
Yeah,
but I think our friend in the chat. I think our friend in the chat, HG, has said before that we are the club that you've got to get the good players to before they move on.
True.
That's what we are.
Yeah.
Like Maddison came to us. It was a good payday for Maddison coming to Spurs
because he didn't get the.
But we should have got him. We should have got him from Norwich.
But what I'm saying, so what my point was about Villa is they are getting in a position of strength now. They're in the Champions League and they're at that higher part of the league now. But they are willing to pay the wages and go the extra yard to make sure they can get there. We tend not to do that. Is my point.
Yeah, and that's the summary, isn't it?
And look at Forest. I think the guy at Forest looks like he's sort of willing to dip in.
I mean, they're an interesting one because they've done it relatively on the cheap. So it'd be interesting to see where they go after this season. Yeah. I mean, they're doing a bit of a Leicester, really, but I don't think he's got the personal wealth to do that. But he certainly shows more ambition than Daniel Levy.
Yeah,
I mean, I think to the point around. So I think, when you're saying that no one in China knows who Tottenham are, I can tell you, when I lived in Hong Kong for 5 years, that physically I have seen people.
That's Hong Kong, not Shanghai.
Yeah, they played in Shanghai on the tournament, and it was. I'm telling you, I've seen it on the telly, local time.
All right, Dave. Yeah. All right, Dave. I'll put it a different way. Our Spurs. I was probably doing this thing called exaggerating to make a point. The point is the Spurs,
which you're very good at,
is not as strong abroad as the clubs that we wish we were more like.
Okay, so having lived abroad,
in South Korea.
Okay, so having lived abroad for a very long time, I have seen the City and Chelsea brand, grow hugely, right?
Because they win trophies.
Because they win trophies. I think you've always had your Liverpool brand and you have your Man United brand from historic. I get that. Now, in terms of us as a club, I obviously my supporting time goes back further than you two because I'm old. And so I was at a time in the beginning of the 80s where we went to Wembley about 6 or 7 times in 14 months. We had we were part of the elite in the 80s. And we were. Liverpool obviously won the championships. We had a couple of tilts at winning the league. Never really, we kind of got near it, but didn't. And we were a club that, you know, the likes of Gary Lineker, Gascoigne, all of that came and joined us because
they felt nearly broke at that point, though, right?
Sorry.
We were nearly bankrupt.
Yeah, but we still
that was
got those
okay.
players.
But that was the end of the 80s, all right. But the point,
tell me about it.
But what I'm saying to you is there was a really good chat we did on here a few weeks ago about are we over entitled as a supporter base, right? And it depends on the mindset of when you actually started watching. I think you guys started watching in the 90s, which you know, at times was pretty grim. I started watching, as I said, when we got relegated from there onwards, right? And I was lucky, really lucky to be blessed to watch some great players in that period of time. So what I look for now in terms of our club, in the context of we've been told we'll move into this stadium and it will give us more revenues to buy better players and things like that. I am realistic. I'm not saying that we're going to go out and buy 5 players and spend, you know, each paying 350 grand a week. But from that report of a couple of weeks ago, where the ratio of salary to revenue at 47% is one of the lowest, and that report said if we bought 3 players and paid them 250 grand a week each, takes that ratio from 47% to 51%, right? So you have to ask yourself the question now, with all these revenues that we're getting in, why are we operating in the market at the moment like a latter-day scholar? Yeah,
I guess
know.
A bit of the truth. Well, a bit of the truth of that will be revealed when the accounts come out again, won't they?
Oh,
which are imminent. We could do a nice show about that.
No, thank you. I was going to say I'll watch, but I won't watch when you do that. But I think we all know where those problems lie, and for me, you know, we're not a big club in terms of winning things, are we? I think our name around the world, you know, I think we are well known, but I don't think we've got that. We haven't got that. You know, we're not big in winning trophies, are we? I look at big. I mean, it might be different nowadays, but I look at big clubs as clubs that win.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah,
that's how I look at it. But HG is right. We always talk about this. It's not, you know, it's not always about the amount of money you spend. It's spending it wisely, isn't it? And we're not very good at that either.
It is, but I suppose to break into the elite, you need to be paying players well.
You do both, don't you?
And we don't. So it's both. You need to identify the right talent, and you need to reward the top talent. And we don't do either very well.
So talking about recruiting top talent, you know, because I've got to get off to bed in a minute. Are we going to be recruiting any top? Are we going to be recruiting any top talent in the next 24 hours?
I don't see it as likely. Personally, I think there might be a couple of desperation signings in there. But
have you not noticed that the players that we've been interested in who've turned us down, some of those clubs are clubs that we've had transfers with recently?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, right. Yeah. So that's not. I mean, that's all about. Well, you still owe us this. We'll write that off if you give us this player. And then the player, yeah. But don't you find it all rather odd for a club that is awash with revenue?
Well, that tells me we haven't got the money.
Well, that also tells me the fact that the chairman and part owner of the business turns around in the summer and in the last account saying, "I'm looking for more investment in the club." Again, you have to ask yourself the question, well, what's going on here?
Well, we're saddled with a lot of debt, aren't we? And I don't mean stadium debt, I mean transfer debt. So straight out of the blocks, I think in the last accounts we owe 200 million on transfers. Money spent badly. But you can't just write that off, can you? It's still there. We pay the price for years of poor spending.
Yeah. So if, let's say, we're all agreed that recruitment's been bad and has been bad for a few years now, then I always come back to the question of people go, well, who appoints these people? Who appoints these people? It's the person who last paid himself a 3 million bonus for a set of accounts that was in the period that we had three first team coaches. That also we didn't have European football for the first time in years. So there's a disconnect there as well. right? And the way that sometimes Levy or others go on about the fact everyone goes end on Bellet. Look at Ndombele. We spent all that money. We broke the record. We paid in the wages. It's not like the first time in footballing history that a club's made a bad signing, paid them a lot of money, and written them off. Doesn't mean you go again. But it's about the quality of people that you appoint. And frankly, from what I've seen or not seen of Scott Munn, Gibbo knows all about Langer. I'm not brimming with confidence at the moment with the mob we've got in now to do this work.
Well, no, I agree. Give me that gorgeous Italian criminal back in ASAP.
Yeah.
I mean, Langer, Brian Hill and some Royale.
Langer was a man who got demoted. They didn't even sack him, did they? They just demoted him. They got someone in over his head, demoted him, and he stayed.
And look where they are now.
And we took him.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is a true point. However, but in Spurs case, it's particularly bad.
You kick the can further
when
down
you compare us to.
We're
the most indebted club. We have the most transfer debt in the league.
But why? Yeah, but that's the deals that he does, because he does the deals where he paid the payments over the term of the contract. It's always done that. He's always done that.
Well, no,
and other clubs do that. Well, hang on. That's how deals are structured. That we pay other clubs the money over the contract. And going back to your FFP point about no one's ever going to get done, you look at all those transfers over the summer between Villa and Chelsea about getting certain players off the books and buying certain players. That was all about FFP.
Yeah, of course it was.
Well, but more importantly, what should we get in, and will we get them in the next day or so? Because I believe the guy we signed yesterday, Danzo, he's available for the Liverpool game, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
I didn't think that was possible. But
because he hasn't played in a domestic.
I thought you had to be available in the first leg.
He will go in. He will go straight into the defence like Ricardo Rocha did in that Arsenal semi-final in the League Cup we lost. Yeah.
Well, according to HG, he's about that standard. So
Yeah. Yeah. So he's in.
We'll see. I don't really see us moving heaven and earth to bring a top class star in the transfer window. I mean, it is the point where you go, I probably would take a Rashford just to give us something else, but he is shit.
What we've got, could he add to the team?
Yeah, Rashford would be a marginal upgrade on what we've got, I guess. But the trouble is, and I think you hit the nail on the head earlier, Matt, like he's wedded to playing Son, so that position is done anyway, right? Solanke or Richarlison are always going to get the nod. We're not going to sign a new striker, and if we do it, it'll be of a lower quality of those two.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the right, you've got
Brennan,
who for whatever reason, Ange seems to really like and think he's a good player. So, if you brought Rashford in, I don't think he'd started at Johnson for Ange. That's the truth. That's Ange.
Well, there's talk that we want to get another centre back in, isn't there, and a forward player. And I'm just going to be really interested to see who they are.
Well, the centre back will be someone shit, almost certainly. But you can tell Axel Ditzel or whatever his chops.
Axel Disaster.
Axel Rose.
He's what's he going to do? Come and sit on the bench? Probably why he doesn't want to come. And then you've got a forward. It's Werner last January. It'll be someone of that ilk. Someone on one.
I think Tomori, if we could have convinced him, would have been a really good signing.
I agree. I like Tomori. I think he'd be top class. I think he'd be better than your mate Romero, to be honest with you, Matt. But unfortunately, that ship has sailed.
That's a chat for another day, isn't it, Romero? But yeah, I mean, I think we will get two players in. It's just who the quality is going to be.
Axel Rose, I was thinking of HG. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see.
So we're doing another 6-hour transfer deadline day special again, are we, Caller?
I think there is a show tomorrow night. Is there not, Gibbo?
No, not tomorrow, mate.
But why would we?
It's only transfer
deadline day. Don't trouble yourself.
Tuesday is another rip-roaring edition of Grumpy Old Spurs.
Well, mate, Dave can tell you how shit Daniel Levy is and rip up the transfer window once more.
Let's talk about the transfer window after it's happened, because one of the first times on the early days when I got involved in this, I think it was me, Dave, and who else was it? And we said we're going to do something for the transfer window, and it was one of the hardest shows we've ever had to do because it
grade the transfer window.
It was painful.
Yeah, but respect to John, who organised a 6-hour transfer day special. 6 hours. Yeah, and that was a marathon, an unbelievable achievement. I mean, I think at one point we're probably going to get the Connect 4 board out and have a game of Connect 4 on air. So, you know.
Ever since we pulled off that transfer for Van der Vaart, we spent ages, didn't we? Spent years and years waiting for one of those to happen again. You know, Sky are always round the gates, and they've probably learnt now that, like, what's the point? Let's go to Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, there was the Joe Roden one that arrived, lastminute.com, wasn't there? That was exciting.
Joe Roden, please. And everyone got excited about Gareth Bale too, as well.
It was the year we nearly signed Charlie Adam.
To be honest,
Charlie Adam.
More exciting if we'd have actually played Gareth Bale 2.0, wouldn't it? That would have been nice. But there you go. We haven't Mourinho.
We've covered that another time previously.
Absolutely.
Let's not go there.
Right, Dave, thanks for joining us late. We know your priorities lie.
Thank you for being as provocative as ever, Paula.
Of course.
And I see that you've got a spaceship, spaceman, astronaut behind you there, Paula.
I'm in the study today.
And Gibbo works for NASA, so it's a space theme at the moment.
There you go. I've got a Formula One driver here as well, if you'd like to see him. But yeah, I'll show you that after the show.
I've got the ocean over there.
Look at you, mate.
I can't top that. Gibbo, thanks very much for joining us.
That's all right, mate. You know, look, I'm available after 9 o'clock. All my family kicked me out of the front room to watch Love Island, so.
Is that you're generally available after 9 o'clock? Or
what? When this is on, mate, of 9 o'clock, mate, I can jump on a show. But yeah, mate, we good to put something out, wasn't it? But I don't think we didn't talk much about the game, did we? We've just gone into our old sort of routine of
people have watched
the board.
People have watched it, so they must like watching us,
Yeah.
Anyway.
And can we just wish quick recovery to Leon. He's just had a hernia operation. I've had two. They're very painful. So get well soon, Leon.
Yeah, get well soon, Leon. That's lovely. Thanks for that, Dave. Until next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.